We're going to be talking about everything that you need to know about Huntsville, Alabama, the rainy city, right? One of the fastest growing cities where it's always raining, located between Atlanta, Birmingham, and Nashville. It is a region of the country that a lot of people are considering moving to, with some of the best job markets in the country, where it's always raining. It's unbelievable that every single time we've gone to Huntsville, it's raining. Between these cities of Birmingham, Memphis, Nashville, and Atlanta, right in the middle of those cities, one of the areas of the country that receives the most rainfall. We're talking 56 inches a year. Of course, the locals use cubits. If you want to talk to a local about how much rain they get in Huntsville, Alabama, you're not going to be able to use inches. They use cubits. It's a relatively safe city when you look at crime rates. When you look at their M rate, it's actually fairly decent for a city that size. However, there's other cities in Alabama like Pine Hill. Alabama is a dangerous place, and you can see by the most deadly cities in the state that there are places like Pine Hill where their M rate is 3 times higher than Salvador. That's crazy. But it's not a dangerous city. It's actually considered the second best place to live in all of Alabama. But to say that you live in the best place in Alabama, but of course, living in the best place in Alabama is like ending up in a good state prison or, getting a cellmate that doesn't fart too much. It doesn't really say a whole lot. Alabama is not a place where the Squirrel Master is going to protect you. With over 215,000 people, probably the only large city in Alabama with a growing population. Most of the other large cities in Alabama have a decreasing population, if that even makes sense. Overall, it's a great region with great other large cities not too far away, although traveling in this part of the country is complicated because the mountains make relatively short distances actually pretty dangerous, especially with inclement weather because of the mountain range that's here. So while the other cities are not that far away, it can actually be pretty difficult travel conditions, especially when there's bad weather. In particular, around Chattanooga, these are some really scary roads. These interstates are full of semi-trucks trying to pass each other. Geographically, Huntsville feels like it should be part of Tennessee. If you study a map carefully, you'll notice that the Tennessee River should have almost been where the state line had been, and in that case, then Huntsville could be part of Tennessee. You'll notice that the mountain ranges, the farmland around Huntsville, and the Tennessee River, it almost feels like Alabama should have stopped right there. And what makes this region of Alabama more attractive is that it really doesn't feel like it's Alabama. It feels more like it's Tennessee. But it's not. It's still Alabama, a state that has laws that are unconventional due to respecting state rights and the fact that Alabama is willing to go to war for those state rights. The Supreme Court doesn't really get involved, but to be fair, many of the laws and practices of Alabama, from law enforcement to the court system, are unconstitutional. If you are a U.S. citizen who was not born in the United States, you need to be very careful because of HB 56, from how Alabama treats immigrants, even if they are legal, to other laws, including unwarranted searches. The state has a long list of complaints, violations of civil rights, as well as your constitutional rights. From checkpoints that are illegal, it doesn't matter. When you hit their court systems, you're going to get full punishment. Law enforcement in Alabama is pretty much totalitarian. If you're moving to this state and you have a considerable net worth, you really need to understand the state laws, study and understand exactly how the state works, may it be a real estate perspective or any other legal avenues that you need to understand, because the state of Alabama isn't playing games. And even worse, if you are into holding illegal substances, this state will have absolutely no mercy with you. Alabama has no problem throwing your life away if you are not in accordance with their laws, and their due procedure are not the standard that you may expect. So despite how many jobs are coming to the area and how progressive some of the people may be and how nice of a city it may look and all the outdoor activities, you absolutely have to understand that it is still part of the state of Alabama, where you do not have the rights that you are given by the U.S. Constitution, because Alabama does whatever the crap it wants. You have like two extremes here. Like, you'll literally have a guy pull up at a Target with like a beat up truck, and he'll pull up next to like an electric vehicle with somebody that moved from California on their way to get like some vegan stuff. They're both at the same place, but they're two completely different individuals. Other than this really stark contrast between like the very conservative locals and the very modern people that are moving here from other places, one of the other curiosities about the people of this area is how many Karens you will run into, especially in the area called Madison, which is just west of Huntsville. You know, like the entitled blonde woman on her way to Starbucks in a BMW C5 or a Porsche Cayenne. These rude people that think they're entitled to everything and they're in your face and they're like Karens. Basically, there's an abundance of Karens in the Huntsville area. But forget about the Karens. Alabama is a very scary place to buy or sell a home due to the state's real estate laws. So if you're buying a property in Alabama, please make sure you educate yourself a little bit, because it's very different than other states, and many things that are legal in Alabama in the real estate world are not that legal in the state you're from now. It means there's a lot of vulnerabilities and loopholes for intelligent, avid realtors with bad intentions to be able to manipulate you and put you in a situation you may not want to be in. Due diligence, you've been warned. I think one of the biggest drawbacks of Alabama as a whole as well, and I know this video is kind of about Huntsville, but there's so many things about the state itself that affect moving to Huntsville, is that Alabama is a welfare state. On the first of the month, it's a holiday. Bone thug looking people are just waiting for the first of the month so they can hop up and dance, and you are paying for those barbecue riblets and everything else they're eating, or for something that will be inhaled. So if you don't like to drive through a neighborhood and see people throwing a party on the first of the month that you're paying for with your taxes, wake up, wake up, wake up, it's the first of the month. And well, like any other city in Alabama, Huntsville has a massive amount of government housing within city limits, the projects. And by the way, talking about the projects on the 500 block of Webster Drive,
I was attacked by some idiot from out here in the projects.
Had your kids, had your wife, and had your husband, because there ain't anybody out here.
So a city that's the biggest thing they're known for, because Huntsville, they're known for NASA, and they're known for what they're really known for is this viral clip on the internet about this idiot who's attacking people in the projects. He's crawling through your windows. He's looking for your wife and kids. Is that really something, Huntsville? Are you proud of that, Huntsville? Is that really what you're proud? Is that all you got to give the world, Huntsville? You see those realtors that are trying to sell you houses. They didn't play that clip about hide your kids, hide your wife in Huntsville. Yeah, that was Huntsville. Hey, you gotta hide your kids and hide your wife if you're gonna move to Huntsville. You're going to move to Huntsville and you're going to get a great job and you're going to get a house for real cheap. You are so dumb. Do you know that? And if you are Hispanic or some other type of non-American background, they are looking for you. They gonna find you. You might as well just turn yourself in. One of the biggest industries in Alabama is the auto making industry. Scott Kilmore, a very, very big YouTuber with his videos about automobiles, he just recently elaborated on why cars made in Alabama suck. And he mentioned that the people were lazy. People that struggle to make a McChicken, let alone put together a vehicle. So while there are jobs in Alabama, you're still dealing with some people that, they struggle to make a McChicken. What makes you think they're going to make a good car? Let's talk about the good areas. I like Big Cove. This is just to the east of Huntsville. There's a big mountain called Monte Sano, It's a beautiful area in Huntsville. And if you're that outdoor person, you're moving to the Huntsville area for the outdoors. Look at that Capri, son. That dunk is fresher than a mint leaf. It's the East Coast Riders coming down your block. It's the East Coast Ride. Sorry, I got carried away. I have the attention span of a goldfish. Big Cove. It's a really nice area. If you want to enjoy the outdoors of the Huntsville area, this will put you in the good area. Starbucks popping up, new restaurants, new houses, beautiful scenery. If you're really looking for that type of Huntsville, then this is the area you want to be in, because on the west side of Huntsville, it's kind of more like flat terrain. They're building a lot of houses there because the ground really lends itself perfectly for that. Just perfect red clay to build houses there. But if you're looking for that scenic area, you don't want to be within the city limits. You want to be kind of near Big Cove. It's a beautiful area, just like the perfect suburban setting. Mountains in the background, traffic isn't as bad as other parts of the Huntsville area. Scenic mountains, just beautiful new homes. If you're looking for a small town within the Huntsville area, there's this place called Hartselle. It's a nice little town. But again, now you're not talking about a place people are moving to. You're talking about a real small town in Alabama. You understand? This is a real southern town. That's a package not everybody is ready for. So keep that in mind. It's a beautiful, nice little town outside of Huntsville, but this is a small town in Alabama. You're getting the whole package with this little place. Got great reviews on the video. Beautiful little area. But I suspect it's not for everybody. Now, if you don't really care about the scenic views, you just want to get affordable housing, and you want to be close to the Target, you want to be close to all the shopping, you're more of the city person, you're not really wanting to be out in the woods, then Madison is a part of Huntsville you want to be in. This is Karen Central. If there is one thing that I absolutely resented about living in Alabama, is the lack of diversity when it comes to food. Now, while there's online lists that say that Madison and Huntsville are like one of the top places in the country to get food, it's not. For being in this region of the country, it's pretty good. But it's not a New Orleans, it's not a Miami, it's not a Austin, Texas. Just kidding. Austin doesn't belong on that list. It's not a Houston, it's not a San Antonio, it's not a food city, okay? It's better than 90% of the cities in the Deep South when it comes to food. In fact, there's a Cuban restaurant called the Cuban Cafe. Amazing Cuban food. I mean, like Miami good. You know how hard that is to find in Alabama? I believe the wife is like German or something, but whatever. If you want to find good Cuban food in Alabama, Madison has that Cuban restaurant. It's actually pretty good. It's also Puerto Rican, Dominican. So there is kind of like a small Latino community. You can find your Cuban food, your Puerto Rican food, your Dominican food, all that. So it's not like that magazine that's out there that says it's one of the most renowned places for food in the entire country. Obviously, that article is written by a hick who's never been anywhere fancy or traveled the country to know that it's good enough to get you by. And that's great for Alabama, but it's not anything spectacular. In fact, if I lived in Huntsville, I would see myself going to Nashville or Atlanta for food quite often. Article probably written by a local who doesn't know any better, bless your heart. And all the other online magazines, of course, all they do is kind of feed off each other. They bite off each other. So now every article that talks about Huntsville mentions how it's one of the greatest food cities in the country because some stupid hick from Alabama who has no idea what's out there in the real world writes this, and they all kind of copy each other. I guess with this video, I want to bring you guys a more authentic explanation for the Huntsville area. I'm not a realtor. I'm not trying to sell you a house there. I'm just being real about what this place is like because I've seen so many videos about Huntsville. So many people moving to Huntsville. There's that Cuban restaurant. The food was like Miami good. So yeah, they do have good food for the region, but it's not like a world-renowned food destination. Whoever wrote that article, bless your heart. I can say this. I look forward to going back to Huntsville. I can't say that about Chattanooga. I can't say that about Jackson, Mississippi. There's not a lot of cities that we travel through the South where I'm like, I really look forward to seeing the city again. I wouldn't mind seeing Huntsville again. It's actually like I look forward to going back, trying some of the local restaurants, seeing how the area has grown, and that is coming very soon. So if you're interested in the Huntsville area, make sure you subscribe to our channel because we're going to be out there soon. We saw a lot of people pretending to be homeless to beg. That is a very difficult thing to see in Alabama. We ran into a lot of people loitering and just kind of trying to panhandle, you could say. And Alabama is not the place where you see that. Alabama for some reason, doesn't have that problem. Mississippi either. In fact, those are the two states with the lowest percentage of real homeless people. But there's a lot of homeless people from Mississippi and Alabama. They're living in other places. That's a whole different topic for a whole different video. But I did notice like this urban package of the Karens, the people that are panhandling, like all these like Karens, panhandlers, like the whole weird package that comes with, like, you know, there's jobs, there's growth, and houses are going up, and like that whole package. Also, it's like the baby California package is what I call it. It's in Huntsville. It came to Sarasota. Like I'm not 100% sure that what's going to happen in Huntsville is as exciting as people think it is, because what I've seen in these baby Californias where they bring the jobs and the tech jobs and all these things happen all at once is that like the Karens are already here, the panhandlers are already here, and it just starts to push towns into a certain direction that I don't personally like. So am I optimistic that Huntsville is going to be this incredible place in the future? The problem is that Alabama is very hostile to outsiders, and it takes outsiders to turn a place like boring, dull, old Alabama into an exciting place people want to go to. You got to have communities from other places. And while Alabama is good at attracting people because the jobs are there, because Alabama has, for some reason, the capacity to get a hold of these, car companies, NASA, they're able to get all these contracts. It's like Alabama has a monopoly on being able to get a hold of these jobs and opportunities. Why don't they put a Toyota plant in Fort Myers, Florida, or Lehigh? Those places really need those investments. They won't put them there for a lot of reasons. But Alabama, and this is a topic that is just much more elaborate of why these jobs are ending up in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and why they're ending up in places like Huntsville, Alabama. Like, that's a whole different subject. If you in the comments section have the time to elaborate a little bit on that, I would really appreciate it. And I want to just hear how other people think before I say my opinion, just in case I'm wrong. So I would love for you guys to just break that down. And I would love to see in the comments section kind of opinions and educated thoughts on why Huntsville, the real reasons why Huntsville is attracting these areas. You're thinking about Houston. Why wouldn't NASA want to be in Houston? That's Texas pride. They pretty much stripped away something that was like so Texas, and now it's in Huntsville. And think about like in Florida, places like Titusville that depended on these industries, and they're not there anymore. So I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions of why is the reason that Huntsville is attracting, the FBI's there, NASA's there, Toyota, Mazda, endless list of big companies, big investments, all ending up in Huntsville, Alabama. But just like I saw many good things that I liked, I also saw other things that pretty much concorded with the problem we're seeing in Florida now with panhandling, Karens, just like this whole other package, with the only difference is that Alabama's legal system doesn't give you a slap on the wrist like these other states where the same exact thing's unfolding. And yes, I was in southern Alabama, and southern Alabama is a completely different beast than Huntsville. Two totally different worlds. Huntsville, Alabama even has homeless camps. That's something you really don't expect in Alabama. So what's it actually like driving through the city? Most of the time it's going to be raining, okay? Like here we are, it's raining, you're driving through Huntsville, you're listening to It's the First of the Month, lots of old houses, you'll run into a lot of government housing projects, and there's a lot of hood type people. Not everybody that's within, like, you have to understand, like, that the core of the city is a town in Alabama. Just like any other town in Alabama, you got your projects, You got your corner stores. You got some old houses. You got some neighborhoods that like are in the middle. They don't look pretty, but they're not like the hood yet. But they're still like inner city neighborhoods. You know what I mean? It's not even like they're having gentrification. It's just like they wrapped a bunch of suburbs around a town in Alabama, just so you understand that. If you are moving to the South, it's a great option. Is it Florida? It's definitely not Florida. It's not this incredible beachside destination. It's like a town in the mountains. It's a little bit better than all the other towns in the mountains. And there's a fair amount of things to do. Look, my first year in Alabama, I was in Montgomery, one of the worst places in the entire South you could be. And I made the worst situation, I made the best of it. So Huntsville is way better. So if I survived the year in Montgomery, you're going to be fine in Huntsville. If I found things to do in the Montgomery area, you'll definitely find things to do in Huntsville. And if you're coming from Florida, you still have the Cuban, Puerto Rican, Dominican food, which is almost impossible to find in Alabama. All right, so if you're moving from California, let's say, and you're going to Huntsville, and you just want to make sure you want to fit in, what are some things that you could do so you don't feel like an outsider? Well, for one, you want to tell people that your wife is your cousin. Number two, you want to squat your truck. Or you could just go to Target 4 times a day and argue with complete strangers about parking spots. That's what most people are doing. And in fact, there's so many people moving to the Huntsville area from other places that it's okay for you to be like a Starbucks eating, like white X5 BMW driving Karen lady whose job is like insignificant but still makes $105,000 a year, living in your 5-bedroom, 3-bath house, even though like you're never there. And like, why do you even have a house that big when there's like you, a dog, and like a husband? Right, so there it is. That's everything you need to know about Huntsville. Yes, it's a fast-growing city. No, it's not as backwards as other parts of Alabama, but it's still part of Alabama, and you need to understand the entire package that comes with living down there. Sometimes I wonder if I had moved to Huntsville. When I said I was moving to Alabama, everybody's like, yo, Huntsville. And I was like, man, I tell you what, that gut down there. That gut down there, tell you what. It was stupid that instead of moving to Huntsville, everybody was like, yo, move to Huntsville. Somehow I ended up in Montgomery, and everybody warned me not to do that. Like, everybody was like, man, you don't want to do that. And even after I moved to Montgomery, everybody was like, why the crap would you move out here? Even the people that were from there were like, man, that's just the dumbest thing I ever heard, man. So, yes, if you're moving to Alabama, you're probably going to want to end up in Huntsville. And I wonder if I had ended up in Huntsville instead of ending up in that there gut down here, how things would have worked out. Probably a whole lot better. I would probably still be in Alabama doing pretty well economically. But now I'm back in Florida with my family, and that is more important to me at this point in my life, even though I'm recording this video from a garage efficiency in Lehigh Acres. There's a lot of things I did like about living in Alabama. One of them was the weather. It's just so nice, and I think the weather in Huntsville is just about perfect. I like rainy days, especially coming from South Florida where it's constant sunshine. It takes a special type of person to get used to that, and sometimes you just feel like your head's been inside a microwave. And I do enjoy the colder days like this where it's cold, it's rainy. It doesn't quite snow every single time, but it will snow. Not enough to ruin your life, but enough. I mean, like, I personally, for like the type of weather I like, I think Huntsville is perfect weather. I like the weather a lot, and I think Huntsville weather, in Nashville, Huntsville weather, I think I enjoyed it a whole lot more than Montgomery weather. And I did really well economically in Alabama while I was there. Unfortunately, the transactions that I had to make to bounce back from moving to Alabama and then exactly a year later moving back to Florida means that I lost more in those two. Like, every time you move, you lose at least $10,000. So if you move twice, there's $20,000 down the drain. And when you buy houses, have businesses, have investments, you lose even more. So in that aspect, I did lose a lot because of Alabama. But I can tell you, like, overall, like, if I had been able to stay where I was, in the position that I was putting myself into in Alabama, I could tell that if I had stayed there for 5, 6, 7 years, it would eventually lead to a very stable, like where I wouldn't have to worry about my economy. And it's a lot harder to make a living in Florida than it is in Alabama. The economics of Alabama are incredible. The weather is incredible. I would definitely say that the two biggest pluses of the Huntsville area is the economics and the weather. Now, after what I lived through personally living in Alabama as a Hispanic in a place where I got ran out of there and they made my life miserable and they tried to steal everything I had and the law enforcement wouldn't protect me because I wasn't from there and they told me straight up that was the situation. After going through all that, it's really hard for me to sit here and make a video about Alabama and not have some type of very strong resentment. But Alabama did a lot of damage to me as a person. I will say that. It taught me things that I wish I could forget. It brings sentiments, resentment, so many bad things. Like that living in Florida, I would have never been exposed to these bad things like I was while living in Alabama. And with all that said, you're getting a warning. It's still Alabama. And if you're a single person, a young person, and you're really getting out there and trying to make it, but if you're family oriented, you have kids and stuff, I think Alabama is the state you want to pass on. If you're in retirement and you have a lot of flexibility, perhaps it could work out well for you. I just want to be honest. And I don't want to trash talk Huntsville and make it look like a bad place because I look forward to going back to it. But after my personal experience in Alabama, it is excruciatingly difficult to sit here and even try to make light of the place that I experienced so many bad things at. One thing that I really didn't like about Alabama is like I can run into some Salvadorans, Cubans, or Mexicans in Florida, and even though they're complete strangers, I can vibe with them and hang out with them and talk to them. But in Alabama, like a lot of the people, that everybody's a lone wolf, basically. You know, like nobody, like if you meet another Spanish person in Alabama, I thought it would be like a great thing. Like, oh, you're Spanish, I'm Spanish too. Like, what's, you know, whatever. No, like everybody's a lone wolf. Like when you run into other Spanish people in Alabama, they're not that warm. They're not that open. They're kind of like very cautious and very afraid. And I ain't trying to live like that. I would rather, like, if you have economical abilities, I would much rather say end up in a place like Fort Myers in a gated community, you know what I mean, like, or Northport or something like that, than end up in a place like Huntsville, Alabama. But again, the weather is so much more pleasant, and the economy of it for somebody young is just superb compared to the opportunities you're going to get down here in Florida. Being from South Florida turns you into a natural-born hustler. You just learn how to make things work. And in Alabama, man, it's like real simple. You pay a cheap rent. You have a good paying job. Restaurants are affordable. Weather's pleasant. It's a very smooth transaction through life. Where down here, people are fighting for rents. People are fighting for jobs. Jobs don't pay enough. Commutes are horrible. Like, it never ends. Access to simple services like internet. I don't have that here in Fort Myers. I'm in an area where they're building houses. Like 3 houses are being built on my street and 2 lots just sold. So they're probably going to be 5 houses at the same time being built on my street. And I think that we just had that like 2 months ago. Yet, I'm sitting here with a hotspot. HughesNet is the fastest internet I can get out here. Embarrassing. No city sewage. We're on septic tank. And the water we get is from a well, not city water. In a neighborhood where houses are going for almost $450,000. I know for a fact if I had landed in Huntsville, I would still be in Alabama. I would have not had to flee. And I could have got a house for $95,000 in an all-right neighborhood. So, yeah, it's definitely better than Montgomery. You can't even compare the two things. But at the same time, there's other packages about Alabama that in the long term just kind of seem unattractive. And I hope that on this video, I covered enough of the good and the bad to where I'm giving the city a fair, like, here's the absolute worst, here's the absolute best, just honest opinion, because I see so many videos about Huntsville, and they're kind of trying to promote the place, but I don't think they're really being honest. I feel like there's just realtors that are trying to, like, sugarcoat things. And then there's the YouTubers who all they do is recycle news articles from people who know about as much of a place as the person who wrote it or the person they copied it from or they heard it from without actually having the real life experience. Look, all these video clips you're watching here, I actually recorded it myself. I actually did all this myself. A lot of these YouTubers don't do that. So I like to give people a realistic, like, crap, I've been there, that's what I saw, that's what I felt. And you're not going to get that from a lot of YouTubers. So please subscribe to our channel and follow us. Hit the like button and leave me a comment. Help us continue to grow because our videos are useful to a lot of people.